All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for joining this early morning program. It is early morning broadcast from Mumkin. All right. Today, victim to victor. So let's see how you shift from victim to become a victor and change your life. So a couple of things. Recording is on. Let me check on my side. Annotation. This is a clear to take off checklist. My video presentation, everything is clear. Host. Now, host, I did not make anyone host. So let me just make, that's why I can make you co-host. All right. That's why it is co-host. Okay, so let's move on. As we decided, we have only 20 minutes together. So what I will do is that I will continue to speak for around 15 minutes or so, and then we'll leave some time for question and answers so that we can close our session in 20 minutes. So for the entire duration of just 20 minutes, I appreciate if you can keep your mobile phones either silent or put them away. Don't hold your mobile phones in your hand. You know why? Because if a WhatsApp icon arrives or clicks or anything, if it shakes or vibrates, it has a tendency to pull away your attention. And human minds are able to focus only on one thing at a time. So it's just a matter of a small duration. Keep them away. Cameras and mics are off. Well, if you want to speak up, you can open your mic and speak up anytime. Question answers, feel free to raise your questions. I would like this session to be interactive rather than me speaking all the time. Notes and sharing, yes. Please take as many notes as possible and share the information with your friends, colleagues, peers, and family members. Feel free to share that. The more you share, more it enhances your level of knowledge and your experience of learning, inshallah. And as mentioned, we'll speak English. And if at all required, you can ask me a question in Urdu and I can reply in Urdu as well. Inshallah. We'll otherwise we'll speak in English so that we can share it with more and more people. Chat window responses. Well, if there's chat window response, I would like to read it aloud so that others can see that as well. And if it is to everyone, I'll read aloud. If it is private to me only, I'll just read by myself. Let's move on. So guys, I would like to introduce a concept of mindsets over here and a concept of belief as well. And they are very much interlinked with each other. So let me tell you what mindsets are we talking about, and then I'll tell you a few of the stories from my coaching experience. All right, so what are the mindsets here? These are the two mindsets. As you can see, one is called victim and one is called victor. So what is victim mindset? This is the mindset which says that I am fine. The problem is on the other side of the wall. The problem is in the other person. I am doing excellent and there's no problem on my side. So the problem is here in the victim side. If a person is in this mindset or the victim mindset, he does not see any problem in himself or herself. The problem is always on the other side. So because of this, what happens is that this guy never improves himself or herself because he thinks or she thinks the problem is on the other side. Because of this guy living in the absolute state of denial, he does not take any responsibility and he always has someone to blame. तो ये तो हो गई इसकी बात victim की बात. What about the victor side? Victor is the guy who takes the responsibility of actions, who takes the ownership of his actions and do something about changing the situation. So I'm pretty sure that you must have read the story that I shared yesterday. It was a real life example that happened with me and my son, where two cars were head on next to each other, and they both were choked because the street was very narrow, and one of them had to reverse, but the guy was not ready to reverse his car and let the other guy go. And both were arguing, and I was just watching the scene from the shop floor. And then I decided to intervene. I went there and I asked a very simple question. I asked them, whoever do you think is more sensible, can he please reverse his car and let the other person go? And, and the car driver immediately understood my point, sat in the car, reversed the car, and let the other guy go through. So just let me switch off the camera here. Okay. So whoever is joining, please keep your cameras closed and your mics closed. Fine. The point that I'm trying to tell you over here is that we face this kind of situation. Every one of us face this kind of situation every now and then in our lives, and we need to feel, we need to believe that we are victors, not victims, because victims they stay in their shell. They never come out of it. So I would like to tell you some brief, small examples from my coaching experience, and these are all real life stories. So sometimes back, I happened to coach a family, someone from the family, and long back, probably maybe more than 5, 6 years back, and the lady said that I am. My issue is that my mother-in-law, no sound. Okay. All right. So, Hamad Hani, if you're not able to hear me, um, okay, can someone else please confirm if you okay, click to okay. Fine. So that means other people can hear me. All right. So let me continue. So this lady approached me, and someone from the distant family, they approached me, and she said that my mother-in-law does not like me at all. So I said, okay, what's the issue? So she said she does not call me, and she speaks to other daughters-in-law, but she does not speak to me. So I said, what do you want? So she said, I would like my mother-in-law to call me sometimes and speak to me, even if there's no reason, just for a chit chat, for an informal conversation. I would like her to call me. So I said, okay. So I asked her a simple question. So this was all going on over the phone communication and a very brief call. So I asked her a very simple question. I asked her what you can do this week, a very small thing that can help your mother-in-law to call you. I repeat the question, what you can do this week, a very small step that can help your mother-in-law to call you. She said, I can call her. Okay, fine. When can you call her? Tomorrow I can do that. All right, so can you please update me next week? She said yes. So next week, very happily and excitedly, she told me that her mother-in-law called her just to find out how she is doing. And as I asked her, did you do anything for that? She said, yes, I called her first and I just asked her, my mother-in-law, how are you doing, and so on and so forth. And just after 2 days, the mother-in-law called back. So initially, I would like you to see that initially she was here in the victim mindset where she was complaining about her mother-in-law and she was not taking the responsibility. A simple question helped her see the situation from a different perspective. She decided to take the ownership of the situation and called the mother-in-law. When she called her mother-in-law, the mother-in-law automatically called her back after 2 days. So this was one of the examples. So if you see the basic thing is the same. Deciding to take the ownership of the situation. Once you take the ownership of the situation, then you take some action. All right. So let's move on to another example. So I'll give you some real life examples, means some not real life, but some individuals' lives examples, and some corporate life examples. So if you are, I don't know because my audience at the moment. So if you are from the corporate side, you will find them relevant. If you are from the life side, you will also again find them relevant. Okay.
Sorry?
So yes, please. Yes, someone wants to say something. All right. If you want to say something, you can write in the chat window. So let me give you another example. So I happen to coach many teams, and in one of the teams, I asked these were the team of software developers. And the team lead, the lady, she said, our issue is the project managers who actually get to the client and bring the requirements from the client. These guys don't tell us the real requirements of the client. So when we develop our software, our code, and when it reaches the clients are not happy because we have not developed as per their expectations. Okay, so what do you want? So she said, the problem is with the project managers, we are fine. We want them to tell us what the client wants so that we could develop our code accordingly. And she continued to keep telling her story over and over again. I asked a very simple question. I asked her, how is your relationship with the project managers, your team's relationship? She said, not very good. Okay, what you can do to make the relationship a little better? And before that, I asked her that, do you think that having a better relationship with these project managers will help you? And she said, yes, definitely. Then I asked her, what is that small little thing that you can do? A small little thing that you can do this week or the following week that will help you uh, improve the level of relationship with the project managers. And once you have a better level of relationship, you can have the information that you want. She started thinking, and then she came up with a small example, a small step rather. And she said, we can have weekly meetings with this project managers, weekly meeting to have a touch base. So, okay, when can you have the next meeting? She said, next week. So I happened to meet the same team the following week. And I asked her, how is the situation now? She said, amazingly, it is very much different than before. I said, what did you do to make this happen? She said, we started having periodic weekly meetings with them, short meetings, but every week. And the situation started changing. So I would like you to see this perspective. Initially, she was complaining that the project managers don't do that and so on and so forth. And then later on, when she decided to take the ownership of the situation, she decided to take an action. And that started changing her life, her professional life. So sometimes what happens, we see the problem. This is basic human tendency. We see a problem and the problem we find is so big. And it's a natural tendency that sometimes we tend to run away from the problem. We are not willing to face the problem. So I would like to tell you one more real life story here. And since the example is good, I can tell you the name of the person as well. And with his permission, I have shared this story many times earlier in different workshops or different trainings. So I happen to have a friend. His name is Kamar Ghani, and Kamar Ghani Sahab is still based in Abu Dhabi. So he had a company. He has a small business of installing small cradles on top of the buildings. In Abu Dhabi, there are lots and lots of glass buildings, and the weather is dusty and sometimes stormy, and the glasses on the building become dirty very quickly. So whenever a new building is constructed, they make arrangements to hang the little cradles from the top so that the window cleaners can clean the windows, can clean the outside glasses. So in one of such buildings, his technicians, they installed the cradle, and the cradle was not installed completely. They told the watchman that please do not let anyone use this cradle, and we'll come tomorrow morning and we'll fix this cradle and complete our work, and then it could be used further. So, having said this, the watchman said fine, and the technicians left. Next morning, 6 a.m., Kamar Ghani received a call. An accident happened on the site. Two of the workers, they came and they saw the cradle installed, and they sat in the cradle and they started lifting the cradle. The moment cradle reached the second floor, the wire, because it was not installed completely, the wire broke and the cradle fell down from the second floor. Now, when the cradle fell down, both of these guys were injured seriously because the cradle fell on them. They fell first and cradle fell on them and whatever. So they were both were injured. Now the site supervisor called Kamar Ghani and told him this is what has happened on the scene. Now, Kamal Ghani could have could have taken the victim's mindset and could have said that no, no, this is not my problem. The problem is on the other side. Instead, what he did, immediately he ran towards the site. By the time the police had also arrived at the site, and the police said, "Who is the owner of this turtle?" Kamal Ghani says, "I am the owner and I take the responsibility here. I am here to face any situation or any consequences." The police was satisfied that the owner of the turtle company was also there. So then police investigated and they figured out that it was not the fault of the technician or the company, Amagani's company. The problem was with the watchman who did not inform the people, the technicians who wanted to use the cradle. Anyway, so the point that I wanted you to look at is that whenever we have a victim mindset, we try to run away from the problem because it is a human tendency. But whenever we have a victor mindset, we tend to take the ownership of the situation, take the responsibility of the situation, and we make some actions over here. So another story, another small story that I would like to tell you, and with this we'll come to the next concept, inshallah. Let me just look at my time. So we still have some 5 to 7 minutes, inshallah. So another example is in another example is from the corporate world. So I happen to coach a manager, a team manager, and he said, "This is my troublemaking guy. The problem is that whenever I communicate, I don't get a positive response. And can you please speak to this guy and coach him here to become better communicator and so on and so forth." So before approaching the other guy, I asked him a question. Did you ever speak to this guy in one-to-one person? Did you ever ask him that how you can be a better manager for him? And a few similar questions. He said, "I never done that." Okay, can you do that? He said, "Yes, I can do that." So this guy was wise enough to take the ownership, and he met the other person, one of his team members, and sat with him for an hour and a half, and both talked openly, and he kept few questions in front of him. For instance, how can be a better manager? How do you want me to communicate? And what are the different preferences between these two persons? And the next week, he told me excitingly that when I opened up in front of the other person who was one of my team members, he started opening up and he told me many things that I never knew before. Now we are closer to each other before, closer to each other, much better than before. And now our relationship is better. And now, inshallah, we will perform even better. In teams, individuals, family members, wherever you name it, and this concept works fantastically because we are human beings and we need to live close to each other. If we do not have good relationships, we cannot positively influence other people and we cannot make corrections either. Remember this rule: connection before correction. I repeat, connection before correction. So with this, I would like to briefly describe the other context, which is the belief system, as you can see in the previous slide, belief system. So with this, I would like to tell you a little bit about the belief system before we conclude our presentation today. So what is a belief system? Whatever that you believe, vision is something that you want to see. So this is a very important point that rather than complaining on what you do not want to see, always talk about what you want to see, right? What you want to see. So if you believe in something, means if you believe in what you want, you will find some possibilities. And I believe you can see my cursor hovering here. You can see some possibilities. When you see some possibilities, you take some actions. And when you take some actions, you get some results. When you get some results, you say, "Yes, I knew it's going to happen. I knew this was possible." It was all possible because you believed it. You believed in it and you saw the possibilities. Interestingly, the opposite is also true. If you do not believe in something, you don't see any possibilities either. When you don't see any possibilities, you don't see any actions. And when you don't take any actions, you don't get any results. And then you say, yes, I told you it's not going to work. My boss is like this. My boss is crazy or nuts, or my wife is this kind of stuck lady, or my child is, or my son, or my car, or the weather. Everything comes under this whole definition of victim and victim mindset. So victors are the people who see possibilities and they take the responsibility, they take the ownership of action. So I believe this concept is clear. If anyone has any question, you can type in the chat window or you can open up your mic and speak up. So I'll just wait for a few seconds and then I'll move to the concluding slide. If you have any questions, feel free, please. आप उर्दू में पूछ सकते हैं question if you're if at all you want, or you can type in if you don't feel comfortable speaking up. Let me just look at my chat if there's anything in here in the chat. No, there's nothing in here. Let me move on then. All right. So I would like you to tell me what has been the learning in last few minutes. It was a very short session. What has been the learning? Anything that may come to your mind. Any action that you may have decided for yourself. That from this day onwards, you will do this.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम नैयर।
Walaikum salam.
नैयर, अभी तक जो कंटेंट आपने बताया है, पहले तो मैं थोड़ा सा रिपीट करूं कि मैंने जो
Sure.
सुना और समझा है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
एक तो आपने बताया कि जो विक्टर और विक्टिम माइंडसेट का बेसिक फ़र्क है वो ये है कि विक्टर जो होता है वो ही टेक्स द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एंड ही हेल्ड्स हिमसेल्फ अकाउंटेबल
Yes.
versus the victim जो है he's going for blames on others.
Yes.
So that was one of
बिल्कुल
the
ऐसा ही है।
areas. And then you mentioned that sometimes the other factor you have to revisit the situation,
Yes.
just like you said that the software house case was that there was no good relationship between manager, so that is why there was a perception that they are not cooperating, but the cause was the relationship.
Yes. That's correct.
Then
Thank you very
also
much, Rahman.
then you mentioned about the uh, mindset, that your vision, how you see things.
Yes.
You see positively, or you always go for negative about others. So that's what you mentioned with the flow, that you have beliefs, then you'll see the possibility, and then of course you'll take action for the results.
Yes. That's
Okay.
correct.
Now, yeah. So now I would mention my question here,
Please.
that there are different cognition level of people. When we are dealing with corporate and mature people, then these concepts are easily acceptable, because they are already tuned, and they are type of people who are not so rigid, and also not so emotional. They are emotionally intelligent normally, comparatively. But when we are dealing with youth and young people, then we come across people where first we have to really develop our rapport with them, and then we get little hold of them, and then we try to bring them to the frequency that they should accept it. So do you suggest any tips how we go about with youth, especially because today we are getting problem with emotional intelligence due to digital invasion and other factors, as described by the different psychologists in different platform. So do you suggest any tips that what would be the right method, that when you want to counsel with the young people, that they should not have the victim mindset and they should go for the victor mindset? So that's what my question is.
Thank you very much for bringing up this wonderful question. So my response will be for this question will be that, as I mentioned earlier, connection before correction. So before going into further details for your question, I would like to tell a few stories here. So I happen to coach some families, especially during the last few years, where there were adult boys in the family, like 18 years or 17, 18, or even 19 years. And there was the fathers brought these boys, and they wanted a specific change in the behavior of the boys. And I'll tell you what were the changes. In first, the family number one, the boy was around 16, and the father and the mother, they both believed that the boy had serious issues of irresponsibility. He was not responsible, and they wanted him to become more responsible. And I asked them a few questions, and I happened to coach them for several months. Now, when I started coaching them, I came to understand that there was a huge difference between the boys' understanding of situation and the parents. There was a very much uh, deeper issues of relationship between the father and the mother and the children, and the family was in a very bad shape. So as I mentioned earlier, that the correction comes later, the connection comes first. So the father used to be very rough with the boy, and even the mom was very rough with the boy. So they started improving, and the boy started improving. I don't say that situation changed overnight, but I still say that the situation became better when the father and the mother they started working on themselves. This was the first case. So coming back to the point, what you said, that in digital invasion and in counseling the youth and everything similar to that, we need to understand the perspective of the other person. We just cannot say that these people don't understand, or these people means these young people don't understand. We need to help. We need to take the responsibility of the situation or ownership of the situation, understand their context, bring us closer to them, start developing connection. Once we are on the same page, the youth, the younger generation, they start listening to us. So this was the first story. The second story was also again a family where the boy was 15 years, and this boy used to play video games like crazy, 6 to 8 hours every day, and the boy would just ignore his prayers and not would not study the right amount of time. I mean, go to school and just don't do anything after the school. He would just get to his laptop and start playing, and both parents were. And he was getting abusive in his language as well, and both parents were concerned. So I happened to coach this boy, and when I started coaching, this is one more important thing, that whenever we work with such families or such boys, we don't work with the boys alone. We happen to work with the parents as well, or we tell the parents that we'll not work with the boys unless we work with the parents. So we started working with the. I started working with the parents as well, and I started pushing the father. So it took me around 6 to 7 months when the boy started getting close to the family. And it was not the action from the boy, it was action from the father as well as the mother. So I'll tell you a small example. The mother said, the boy, my son is not very is confused, rather, and he is not very confident, and so on and so forth. So when I asked a few questions, I happened to understand that the boy who was 15 years, the mother would not let him go to the school by herself in the car. Of course, they were well off, and mashallah, they had a car, they had a driver. So the mother will go to the school to drop her 15-year-old son, and then again go in the afternoon to bring him back. And she would not let the boy go alone with the driver, although the driver was their own family driver. So I asked the mother, tell me, what did you do? What specific action did you do to let your boy become more confident? And she was speechless. She was overprotective of her boy. So similarly, what happens that if you look by having some small conversations, or by, let's say, two or three meetings, we start getting to know what's happening in the background. And this helps us understand that there's a lot of responsibility that parents need to take care of, or to take in this context, in these contexts, to improve the situation. So Alhamdulillah, the mother and the father, they both realized their responsibilities. They took some actions. They made some decisions. They started taking some actions. And I happened to touch base a few weeks before the mom, and I coached this boy in starting October last year, probably October or maybe winter last year. So I happened to get in touch with the mom of this boy, and she said, "Mashallah, the situation is much better than before. I'm not coaching them anymore. Probably I have been out of touch for with them for last more than 6 months. The situation has become better." So the point that I'm telling you, Farooq, over here is that we as adults, we need to take the responsibility of action. We need to take the responsibility of understanding the other person's viewpoint. In this case, they are the youth or the younger generation, and then take the ownership of bringing ourselves closer to them. Once that connection is established, then the correction starts happening automatically. So I believe I have answered your question. If not, then we can take this on one to one. Thank you so much. Guys, any more
Thank you,
questions?
dear. Thank you, Jazakallah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So, guys, let's move on. So, I would like to invite you to do some action. Guys, there's something which is called knowing, and there's something which is called doing. Knowing is different than doing. So far, whatever that you have come to know here, it is all about knowing. It is not about doing. If you want to change your life from knowing to doing, I invite you, or rather, I would challenge you to scan this QR code, fill up a form, and speak to us for a complimentary one-to-one coaching session. And you never know, this may change your life. Maybe, or most positively, you will become a victor, inshallah. So I invite you for the action. Next action is very simple, small steps. Scan that QR code and speak to us. Thank you very much for joining us in this presentation. With this, we come to a close. See you soon again, inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
आप chat में जाकर लिख देते हो ना?
All right. If any question is there, please feel free. The recording is still going on. If there are any questions, feel free to raise your questions. Let me see something in chat. Okay. All right. No questions in here, chat. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Look forward to seeing you soon again. Assalamu alaikum.